You're welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. Now, some businesses in the country are still yet to recover from the shocks of COVID-19. Data from the Ghana Statistical Service shows for the 60,000 firms in the agribusiness space still remain shut as a result of this pandemic. So what should be done by government to fast-track the recovery of these businesses? Also, how is the private sector working to take advantage of the opportunities that exist for them when it comes to the African Continental Free Trade Area? This morning, our discussion will be in two parts. One will be how private firms hit by COVID-19 are managing, and a program that the Private Enterprise Federation is hosting Wednesday on private firms in Ghana. Nana Osebonsu is Chief Executive of the Private Enterprise Federation. He joins us in studio. Nana, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for hosting me.
Thanks for coming. Now, let's start off with COVID-19 as a subject. The private sector was heavily hit, especially in the face of our efforts being made in digitization, which have not been realized.
Well, the point is the Private Enterprise Federation at that time was the chair of the COVID-19 West Africa private sector platform, so heavily involved in both the recovery and saving our employees, because that was the first point of call. How do we safeguard the interests of our employees, their health, and their families? So that led to the government also shutting down some of the activities, and reflected badly on businesses, because when there's no patronage, there's no income. When there's no income, and then there are a lot of job losses. So this became difficult for businesses, because when you don't plan, and this pandemic did not allow anybody to plan. So it was a spontaneous...
Yeah, that was the dangerous part, really. The fact that it sort of took the whole world by surprise.
By surprise, yes. I remember I was in London, January 2020, when the Chinese, I saw some Chinese with face masks, and I said, what is this? And everybody was running away from them. And then, you know, when we came home, all hell broke loose.
So Nana, where are we now?
We're not doing too well. We are not doing too well at all. If you look at the data from 2019, and then when the pandemic hit, where everything went down, even though inflation and others went down, then later on, because of the shutdown, the drastic demand, the surge in the demand, brought inflation up. And, you know, private sector was caught in, we didn't do too well in hosting ourselves and holding ourselves. We didn't produce. So how do we recover? What do we sell, and who do we sell to? You know, so those were the issues at the time. Now, come 2021, what are we doing? Private sector always reacts to government policy and government actions. This is true.
Which means government spending, basically.
Government spending, because the government is the biggest spender of goods and services. So once the government does, private sector prime themselves to be able to take advantage of what government is going to do. Now, government agencies don't have decision makers in place. And as such, the activities of those have been quiet.
Because government has not been fully formed yet.
Yes. So the private sector is sitting and waiting. And that reflects in even the borrowings of the private sector. Because we know if I borrow, what am I going to do with it? I'm going to pay, which income am I going to use to do? It reflects in the growth of the credit to private sector at this time, from double digits to single digits. And this is very, very difficult. So when we look within ourselves, we're not doing well. When we compare to our peers within the community of the continental free trade, we're doing worse. We have the highest cost of money, high cost of energy, productive capacities at low levels. So we need the government to come in place with a policy framework and say, okay, this is where we're going to go. Now, the Continental Free Trade, as you said, we're going to host this activity tomorrow. It allows countries within a 10-year period, some 13, to reduce their tariffs or remove their tariffs. Now, the 10-year, are we rushing to the end zone? Do private sector people know what the schedules are, which areas we're going to reduce or remove the tariffs, at what pace? And which are the 90% that we're going to attack?
Those are some key questions.
These are issues of very, very prime importance for tomorrow. Because what we do today is going to reflect on the jobs creation, wealth creation, and job losses and all. So we need government to come to place and say, okay, you all business association, your consumer businesses, let's sit together and see the common ground. Which areas do we, because government revenues are going to be affected as well. And when government loses revenue from the removal of the tariffs, who do they go to? The private sector to recover the loss of income.
I want to know this though. What you requires the full gamut of governments, obviously,
yes,
which is affecting you not just in expenditure, but also in terms of decision making for decisions like this. However, the question that some would have is that we have seen ministers of state appointed. We've seen deputy ministers are being vetted now. Is it that these ministers of state are unable to carry the burden of direct policy implementation, which will translate into government spending?
You see, the structure of government depends on the bureaucrats, the public servants. It's not the political leadership. The political leadership brings an anchor to what the individual decision or agency is going to do. But the nitty-gritty activity, the planning, and the course of budgeting and all falls on these bureaucrats. And without the individual leadership in place, they find wanting, because who wants to stick their neck and make a decision that is possibly not authorized or may vary down the road? So that definitely has impacted on private sector holding pattern.
I'm sure this then is one of the issues that must be discussed at the program that PEF is hosting.
Yes, we're going to discuss that, and we're hoping that within the shortest possible time we can get an accommodation with government to have a dialogue to see where we're going. Because as I said, you know, this is among ourselves, but from comparing ourselves to our peers within the continent with this opportunity, and Ghana rushing to the end zone to open our borders and open our tariffs, what are we going to do to our businesses? Where's the schedule? How do we react to that?
So who is expected to speak at this program, and how can, you know, viewers get involved?
Oh, well, we have the FAO Director for Africa is going to speak. We have the Minister of Agriculture going to speak, because basically the Continental Free Trade using agriculture will be the biggest opportunity, because that's where we have, competitive advantage. So that FAO, the Minister of Agric, the Secretariat of the CFTA is going to be there. Then we have the CSLR, which is a technical institution in Ghana that can provide support too. Then we have the Exim Bank and GEPA, Ghana Export Promotions. So those kind of institutions set up to support exports. But unless you produce locally, you cannot export. And unless you know the export market, you wouldn't know what to produce.
So Nana, what is the expected outcome or impact, if you like, of this program?
The expected outcome is to build the capacity and understanding. Basically, one word: information. Providing information to the appropriate authorities and the concerned businesses to know what this program is all about, and which are the tools that we can use to catalyze the private sector to take advantage and create jobs and wealth. That is the essence of what we want to do tomorrow.
And I'll say, thank you very much.
I'm very, very grateful.
Joining us this morning, Chief Executive of Private Enterprise Federation.